about faith the last few weeks. Wow. I've been talking about faith the last few weeks, so today we're going to talk about faith in God. I think last week we talked about faith in the power of God. Before that we talked about extraordinary faith. And before that we talked about faith in general. Today we're going to talk about faith in God. I mean, the scripture says without faith it's impossible to please Him, but how are we going to live this life without having faith in God? Let's go to Mark 11:22. Wow. How can you live this life without it? I don't know. Can you do it? I can't. Background for this particular scripture that I'm about to read is, Jesus and the disciples are walking, and as they're walking, Jesus gets hungry and he sees a fig tree. Of course, Jesus, who was a part of creating creation in the first place, he sees a fig tree, and he knows that I created fig trees for a purpose. And the purpose is to produce figs for people to partake of, especially if they need the nourishment. So he goes, there's a fig tree that's displaying an attraction to come and get something to eat. So based on what I see, it drew my attention. I'm going to go get something to eat. He gets to the fig tree, it has no fruit on it. All right, so it was existing. It had the form of a fig tree, but it wasn't producing any fruit. So Jesus was like, well, wait a minute. If you're not doing what you were designed for, why are you even here? So he cursed the fig tree. He said, well, no man eat fruit of thee thereafter. So he walked away. He didn't stop and look and see the tree was cursed. He just went about his business. So they come back by, and the disciples go, Master, that tree that you cursed, look at it. They're astonished. Jesus is like, Mark 11:22. Jesus answered and saith unto them, have faith in God. So he says, okay, you see this miracle, and one, you're focusing on me, and you're focusing on the miracle. He says, but I want to direct your attention to the source of all this. He says, have faith in God. You know, the scripture says, rightly divide the word. So if you break it down, we need to have faith, but it says, don't have faith in just anything. Remember we talked about, last week when we talked about faith in the power of God, 1 Corinthians 2:4-5, where Paul said, my preaching and my teaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but it was a demonstration of power. So your faith should not stand inside the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. So here, Jesus is saying, have faith in God. So have faith, but don't just have blanket faith. No, have that faith inside a relationship or a communion with God. So for us to live this life of faith, we can't live this life of faith independent of God. So we spend all our time with the world, all our time with the things that we can touch and see and feel, and God gets a drive-by. You know, maybe an hour on Sunday, maybe a half hour, you know, maybe a scripture. You know, maybe you saw a video for about 15 minutes. But then all the rest of your day, all the rest of your week is with the world. How are you going to have faith in God when most of your communion is with the world?
That's good.
So your faith will be in CNN, People, you know, Lifetime, Oprah, Dr. Phil, everything, ESPN, you know, what is it, Rome. You know, your life will be outside the lines. Everything but God. You got to spend time with God to have faith in Him. Even in a relationship, we were talking about this last night. I was talking to one of my cousins, and he really wants to be in union with a particular young lady, but she doesn't have faith in him. She doesn't have faith in him because of his inconsistency or, you know, lack of connection. You know, so it's very hard for us to have faith in God if we don't have enough communion with Him and connection with Him to watch Him being as consistent as He really is. You know, so it's important to have faith in God. The key is this: God knows what we need. This is the key. If we recognize God knows what we need, Proverbs 3. Let's go there real quick. If you wake up every day and you keep in your heart, you know, God knows what I need better than anybody else. Even though it looks crazy, it looks like it's painful. If I keep in my heart, God knows what I need, I can keep moving. No matter how it looks, I'll just keep taking the next step, the next best step from where I'm at, because I know God knows what I need. So this just doesn't look, it's not the way I was planning to go. I remember we were talking and I gave you guys that the reference to that book, The Dream Giver, and how in the book, The Dream Giver ran into the character called Faith. And so he was frustrated in the wilderness, and while he was frustrated in the wilderness, in the wasteland, the Faith shows up, and the main character in the book is named Ordinary. Ordinary goes, man, he says, well, I came, the Dream Giver sent me, which of course represents God. So he says, the Dream Giver sent you, it's too late now. You know, I went through this wilderness and I'm going through all these changes. Now you're going to come try to help me. I don't need you now. He says, well, what can I do to help you? What is it that you're looking for? He says, well, could just show me back to familiar. Show me back. The town he had just left was familiar. He had just came through the comfort zone. He had just passed through the border bullies, and he was in the wasteland. He was like, well, just show me how to get back to familiar. He said, well, I can't. Faith said, I can't show you how to go back to familiar. Faith says, I can't show you how to go back to familiar. I'm not even designed to live in familiar. So that's outside of my purpose. So then he says, well, you can't help me then. So Faith left and went in the direction opposite of where Ordinary thought he should go. And that's what happens. It's like, it's not a direction that you're familiar with. But see, once he recognized God was there for him, he says, you know what I think I'll do? I'm going to go follow Faith. Once he recognized, God knows what I need. Listen, I've been leaning to my own understanding that was comfortable for me for the longest. I'll say God, but I'll live according to me. I'll acknowledge God, but I'll live according to me. I'll quote a scripture, but I'll live according to my word, not his word. Because I think I know what I need. I think they know what I need. But how could God possibly know what I need? He only fearfully and wonderfully made me. He only knows the hairs on my head. How could he know what I need? He's only the designer. How can a designer know what he designed better than that which he designed? He couldn't possibly. It's what your own understanding says. Well, let's go to Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. Scripture we've all heard, but let's read it in the context of what we're talking about. It's, starting with verse 5, it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Rightly divide the word, all your heart. Not some of it. See, that's a consistent, constant communion with God. It says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart. Look, lean not to thine own understanding. Don't trust yourself, your own understanding, because you'll look to be comfortable. You'll look to do what's familiar. You'll go by what they say. It says, lean not to thine own understanding. Look, in all your ways, not some of them, in every step and direction you take, in all your ways, acknowledge him. Act like you know him. You have an intimate relationship with him. And it says, and he shall direct your path. He'll give you the next best step from where you're at. Think about it. You're driving, you got your GPS, and you miss a turn and you miss an exit, like I did yesterday. But the GPS does not trip on you. It gives you the next best step from where you're at. But it doesn't give you all the steps. We talked about this the other week. It doesn't give you the entire map to where you're going. It doesn't say, okay, turn 4 lefts, 10 rights. Once you go through the third light, the gas station on the right, that's where you're going to be at. You'll be trying to remember all that. No, it just says, at the next exit, make a left. You know what I'm saying? That's all it tells you. And then once you get there, and actually if you have the, the U-turn or whatever, the nav system, even if you put it on silence, it only beeps when you get to where you need to make your exit or your turn. Wow. It don't beep the whole time. Beep, 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 beep. It don't do that. It don't give you like 1,000 beeps at one time. Every time you get to the next best step, a signal goes off. Same thing that goes on the inside of you when you're living for God. There's an unction from the Holy One and you know all things. That unction goes off when you cross a certain crossroad or a path where you're supposed to engage something. You're supposed to make a choice or decision. And you're never at peace until you make that best decision. You make that right turn. You see, same thing happens on the inside of you because God is directing your path because He knows what you need. See, Joseph understood that in the Bible. If you read through on your own, Genesis 37 through 50, yeah, Joseph dreamed a dream. And the big mistake is he dreamed a dream when he told his brothers. So, because a part of the dream was, oh yeah, you know, it's like he was excited, naive, younger brother. Oh, guess what? I had this dream. All y'all gonna be bowing down and worshiping me. You, Dad, everybody. So the brothers was like, see, back then they were different from us. They understood the value of a dream. They knew how God communicated. Yes, He communicates through audible voice. Yes, He communicates through still small voice. Yes, He communicates through signs and wonders, but He also communicates through dreams. We think just because 2012 God's changed, but God's the same way. So they understood that. So when they heard dream, they was like, oh, so he heard from God. Man, nobody trying to bow down to Him. So look, they took it so serious. They said, well, the only way we can get out of this is to kill him. So they plotted to kill him, but God always has a remnant. Even though it looks like somebody's trying to take you out, the circumstances trying to take you out, God always has a ram or a remnant to make sure that doesn't happen. So He moved on one of the brothers' hearts. He's like, no, we just can't kill him. Tell you what, let's just put him in the pit, figuring he'd come back and get him later. So they put him in the pit, but then so he left. The other brother said, oh, look, there's some slaves. Let's sell them. We can make some money off of them. Sell them to slaves. They went through all that trouble. Here, Joseph is sold to slavery. All he did was tell him a dream and get a nice shiny coat from his dad. And now I'm a slave? I'm a part of a wealthy family, and now I'm a slave? I ain't even do nothing. So he elevates because of the favor of God. He becomes the top slave. But then his master's wife tried to have sex with him. He was like, no, I can't do that. He didn't say I couldn't do that because your master going to be mad. No, he said, I can't sin against heaven. He stayed in communion. Soon something unfair happens to us, what do? I can't believe you're doing this. Where you at, God? He didn't say where you at. He didn't trip. He didn't go off. He still honored God despite the circumstances. And this didn't happen in a couple months. This was years. At this point, we're talking 6 or 7 years at that point. So then he said, no, I can't sin against God. So she tried to set him up, tried to take his clothes off. He runs out. She gets a piece of his clothing and yells rape. So now he's locked up. He didn't even do nothing. Still didn't trip against God. Elevated to be the top prisoner in a prison. Then he becomes top prisoner, so there's a butler and a baker there, and the butler and the baker, they kept having dreams. Everybody understood the power of dreams. That'd be another teaching. So he said, listen, you know, I know you guys are having trouble sleeping because you don't know what your dream means and you're worried about it. He says, but I interpret dreams all the time. God will give me the interpretation of your dreams. So one dream was interpreted, the butler in 3 days will be released, and the baker in 3 days, the butcher in 3 days, one of the two, will get his head cut off. And the dreams came to pass. He said, so when the butler was leaving, he said, now listen, remember I interpret your dream, don't forget about me. And so when you go back to the master's house, you know, get me out of here. Oh man, I ain't gonna forget about you. You know, we like this. You know, you gave me some peace, interpret my dream. He leaves, forgets all about it. Another couple of years go by. What will we do? See, they played me, it's not fair. Wasn't me, I wouldn't even be out of here. You know, he didn't do none of that. He still kept a communion with God, regardless of the circumstance. Because you know what he was saying on the inside? God knows what I need. No matter what, God knows what I need. This is crazy. I've been put in slavery. I've been put in prison. I've been forgotten about. I've been taken advantage of. I've been treated wrong. But you know what? Despite the circumstances, I know God knows what I need. Then eventually, the Pharaoh has a dream. He calls all his astrologers, soothsayers, whatever. They couldn't interpret his dream. The Pharaoh even understood the power of dreams.